Robert Mays from the Athletic Football Show on what he thinks went wrong with Browns defense in 2024.
They led the league in pressure rate, according to Next Gen Stats. And when you watch this team play, they were not affecting the pocket more than any other pass rush in the NFL. And so I think that is the number one starting point. When you look at what this team was in 2023 and that wave of guys coming at you, that just wasn't the case last year. Even when Zadarius Smith was there, he was not the same player. And so them not being able to take over games up front, and I think you're starting to feel that, I think that's a big part of it. But I think this is another really good case of how volatile coverage is and how not sticky it is from season to season. You're going to have those years like they had in 2023 where those guys pitched a shutout for like 17 games. They were so good in man coverage. And I think the number that really kind of points to this, in 2023, when they were the best defense in the league, they had a 61% defensive success rate without pressure. That's crazy. Like league average is 50. And so the pressure and the front was good, but the coverage was phenomenal even when they weren't getting pressure. Last year, that number was 51%. So they dropped 10 percentage points, and 51% is essentially league average. And that's about what you would expect. So I think when you combine the lack of teeth up front and them not being able to dictate games that way, and the coverage unit going back to human levels of pass coverage, combining those two things, plus the worst conversion success rate on offensive downs in the NFL and what that does to a defense.
Yeah, Lance, I think he hit on all the points. Here's the question that I have. They clearly thought it was an issue because you drafted a defensive tackle. You drafted a guy that's going to play in the middle. Mike Hall, who was their top draft pick, even in second rounder, plays defensive tackle. How much better can this defense be with those three guys? And they all bring a little bit of a physicality to it.
Well, I think the defensive line is going to be really, really deep. Now, going to what he said on there, and it was interesting because once again, the numbers are great, and we all use numbers, but I try to always stick to the film. And when you go in, so if you think about the Browns 2 years ago when they were elite and everybody, so 61% of the time the pressure wasn't there and those guys stuck anyway. Well, I guarantee you, during those when you prepare for the Browns a couple years ago, it's the perception of pressure too, right? So not only do they pressure, but when they don't pressure, you have to assume they're going to pressure. So everything you've done that week in terms of getting rid of the ball quickly, you still do that whether they create pressure or not. So you're still trying to get rid of the ball at 2.8, 3.2, all those times we use as offensive coordinators because you assume the pressure's coming, whether it's there or not. So that ability to pressure up front really helps the defensive backs. But also the perception of pressure really helps those defensive backs, right? And that's what they didn't do last year. And for me, it was the defense struggled a little bit more because of the offense. They did not play complementary football. I think if they can shorten the game, win on first down, both sides of the ball, that's what I'm always going to say. Protect the ball on offense, turn it over a little bit more on defense. That's why I wanted Xavier Watts when you and I were working the draft, right? They got to get the ball, create short fields for that offense. But the secondary, though, in this defense, they all work together. So for me, I love numbers. I think numbers are great, but numbers can be skewed in football. Sometimes there's feel, and sometimes you're down on the field. And I remember when you go into a game and a team doesn't create that pressure, but you've watched 3 films where all they did was pressure, that's what you worked on. So that year, not only the pressure, but the perception of pressure. So I think they're going to be very good. They're going to come at you in waves, but the offense has to do its part as well. So does the special teams. They got to end every drive in a kick. You're going to hear me saying this for the next 4 or 5 months, but there's a formula to win, and the Browns have it. They got to not listen to the noise, play good defense, run the ball, and they got a chance to win some games.